I'm Albertan, and I do not like it when people from other provinces meddle in my province's politics, especially when they're BC NDPers, that kind of anti-oil yahoo that Rachel Notley keeps piling onto her government payroll to push through her crazy ideas. They're people like Sephora Berman and Marcella Monroe and Karen Mahone. But today I'm making an exception for myself. You see, I have a dire warning to give to my neighbors to the west in British Columbia. You do not want these NDPers back. You see, this was my province just a few years ago. We were happy, booming, we were building and drilling and mining and farming. We had at one point constructively negative unemployment, as in we didn't even have enough people here to do all the jobs we were so busy creating at the time. It's hard to even imagine the land of milk and honey and oil and jobs we all once lived in. And it wasn't even all that long ago. And now, well, this is my province on the NDP. Unemployment is flirting with 10% in Calgary, once the jewel of the Canadian economy. Food banks are overburdened and struggling to meet the demands of the 100,000 people who have lost their jobs in the energy sector alone. 63,000 people right now have been consistently unemployed for over 6 months or more. Farmers are being harassed by meddlesome union rules. There's a war on coal being financed with my power bill. Investment capital is flooding out, business insolvencies are way up, housing starts are way down, and foreclosures are not a rarity anymore. Government debt, once an outlawed thing in Alberta, is at its highest levels ever. It's a different place to live and work if you've even got work to go to. So what happened here? Let me show you this graph of payroll growth made by University of Alberta economist Trevor Tombe. BC, Alberta, and everyone else starts off at the same place in June 2015. You see Alberta, BC, and a bunch of other provinces in gray sort of jumbled up the middle of the graph. Now look at how the Alberta and BC payroll growth numbers diverge drastically from each other. Two provinces, side by side, both struggling with a global downturn in oil and gas and both struggling to get their fossil fuels offshore to foreign markets. So why the big divergence? What's the big difference? Well, in Alberta, the NDP were sworn into power May 24th, 2015, and they had a different solution to the economic challenges Alberta was facing. Alberta decided to spend and inflated its expensive public sector by 50,000 jobs. Then Alberta taxed more to pay for it all and punished successful businesses for generating wealth and creating jobs in Alberta. Oh, and then they decided to give out free light bulbs and clotheslines with the revenue from a carbon tax they used to scare all the investment dollars away. And BC did the opposite. BC spent less on its public sector, spent less on its public services, kept taxation relatively stable, making it a safe place for businesses to invest. Oh, and they also didn't try to screw in light bulbs for people. And so BC ended up having an opposite result. They ended up with a growing economy, growing investment, growing job creation, and growing wages. And Alberta ended up with a wreck it's going to take 2 generations to dig ourselves out of. Oh, and it also only took like 2 years to make that wreck. The NDP are not a slow-moving incompetence. These people are in hyperdrive. Now, I'm not making an argument for Christy Clark and the BC Liberals. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I actually have a lot of criticism for them and her. But I am making an argument, as an Albertan who is living through this, that voting for the NDP because you feel like it's time for a change is like burning your house down because you hate the color of the walls in the spare bedroom. It's overkill. It's pretty risky. Too much is at stake. You stand to lose too much. Actually, you could lose everything, as so many Albertans are finding out right now. The NDP destroy every economy they touch. Please, BC, do not let them near yours. They did it in Saskatchewan, Ontario, then BC in the 1990s, and right now Alberta. You do not want to end up like me, envious of payroll growth in the Atlantic provinces and in Kathleen Wynne's Ontario. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. To learn more about Rachel Notley, the NDP, and their ties to the BC NDP, get my book, The Destroyers, Rachel Notley and the NDP's War on Alberta. Go to thedestroyers.ca.